obviously, I remember, I'm going to date myself here, the first time that I got on the internet. And the internet wasn't what we see today with web browsers. You would use a modem and you would connect to something through a terminal and like text would come up. And then you could jump from that one spot to another. And this was the beginning of the internet. And the first time I got on there, I had like little goosebumps. Obviously, the internet evolved. The second time I got goosebumps was when I sold something on the internet for the first time. Mega goosebumps. And then I've had no goosebumps since until OpenAI released Chat GPT.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today's episode is extra special because my guest is my very own husband, Kris Karski. I cannot believe that it has taken me 3 seasons to have him as a guest on the podcast. And believe me, it's for no lack of invitation. He is a marketing guru, dare I say genius, because he is whippet smart when it comes to digital marketing and all things tech. So it made perfect sense to invite him on the podcast. And he actually accepted this time to talk about artificial intelligence, AI, Chat GPT, all the things that are going on. This episode is a good one. If you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, you live under a rock, you definitely need to listen to this episode. If you've dabbled with Chat GPT, you also need to listen to this episode because we walk through ways you can use it in your business, some scary things that could happen with AI. And I just think it's kind of a delightful, different conversation. We do have this also on YouTube. And apparently I was yawning a lot because I do find tech a little bit boring. I'm not going to lie. And I've heard him talk about it a million times. Anyways, that's not to say this isn't such a juicy episode. If you're interested in hearing me and my husband talk about AI in your interior design business and the world, guys, dive right in and have fun. All right, we have a very special guest today on the Resilient by Design podcast. Boom, my very own husband, Kris Karski. Okay.
It is an honor to be here. And, I do have a couple questions. One being, I don't know why it took so long for me to get on this podcast.
Well, it's not for a lack of trying on my part.
I don't know. Maybe.
So for those listening, and maybe some of you don't know Kris used to be featured quite heavily in my Instagram stories. He was like the pokeroo. But we've done a few things together. We were going to have a podcast together.
During the pandemic.
Actually.
At the start of the pandemic.
Yeah, before. Because I started this podcast in August of 2020. So it was pre-pandemic. And you bought all the equipment because I wanted to have a podcast. I only started this one in the pandemic. But I could never nail you down to do any recording days.
Yeah, well, I bought the equipment so that I could start my own podcast, and I just never did. But now that I'm kind of seeing this, and I'm like kind of getting into it a little bit, I think I might start my own podcast, get a little competitive, and see how that goes. And maybe you could be a guest on mine.
All power to you, honey. I'll support all your endeavors.
I know you will.
If they ever come to fruition.
Absolutely.
Okay, here
now
we
that we've
go.
got that out of the way. Just for everybody listening, we don't actually get to talk a lot because between work and 2 children, it's I feel like,
we have one date night a week, which is tonight, but I have plans with my girlfriends.
Not a lot of one-on-one time, so.
Oh, that's a whole other podcast. The realities of marriage. Okay. Anyways, we have you on here today because, and I'm going to let you actually share in your own words who you are besides being my husband, and what you do for a living and why you are qualified to talk about artificial intelligence.
I mean, I don't know that I'm qualified to talk. Like, I couldn't give a TED talk on artificial intelligence.
Great.
But anyway.
Why are you here then?
but we'll start with, so I'm a perpetual nerd, as you know, and I've been one from the beginning, from the point that I got my first computer. Through that and through the days of evolving in the world of computers, I taught myself how to program. I started my own marketing agency when I was 25 and had no business starting a business. And that has sort of evolved across the years to what we are today, which is still a marketing agency, but we do like to employ a lot of tech and the latest and greatest tech possible, and a lot of data analysis and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I'm just a giant nerd.
Okay, so tell us more. Go.
Obviously, I remember, I'm going to date myself here, the first time that I got on the internet. And the internet wasn't what we see today with web browsers. You would use a modem and you would connect to something through a terminal, and like text would come up. And then you could jump from that one spot to another. And this was the beginning of the internet. And the first time I got on there, I had like little goosebumps. Obviously, the internet evolved. The second time I got goosebumps was when I sold something on the internet for the first time. Mega goosebumps. And then I've had no goosebumps since until OpenAI released Chat GPT. I have goosebumps right now. I just said it and I have goosebumps. To me, it's the exact same point in tech where the internet first began with a browser where, normal humans could use it. We're exactly in that same sort of starting point. And if we look at, where the internet evolved over the last 30 years, that's going to happen with AI, except it's going to happen in 3 years. That's pretty crazy.
It's crazy, but I feel like it's also kind of scary. Like if you think about progress and we think things have gone so quickly in the last 20 years, well, like that, you're basically saying we ain't seen nothing yet.
No, we haven't, because the goal of all these AI companies, and it's not just OpenAI. I'm going to shout out to Cohere, which is a Canadian company. They're doing something very similar. And everybody all over the world is, OpenAI is, Google is, Facebook is, Apple is, everyone's doing this. Here's the really scary part, I guess. There's obviously always an end goal for these things. The end goal is for something called artificial general intelligence, which is AGI. That's the end goal. Artificial general intelligence, if we actually hit that, there's a really big question mark. And that question mark is, will it be self-aware? Because it will be as intelligent as we humans can possibly make something. It will be able to learn on its own. So effectively, it may be self-aware. That's the race.
Okay. So like we've got a bunch of interior design firm owners here listening who maybe aren't that tech nerdy the way you are. Like, what does that mean to have technology that's self-aware? I mean, we know what self-awareness is in a human. Break that down.
How can we do this? All right. So first of all, are we going to assume that everyone has tried Chat GPT?
Well, I don't know. I'm not assuming everyone's tried it. No.
So let's maybe talk about how it works, right? So you type something into Chat GPT. You type in a question. It's called prompting. And then it provides you an answer. Sort of the way that it does that, for the most part, is it's a giant neural network. So we're not going to get into what a neural network is, but your brain is a neural network. It's made up of neurons that are interconnected. So they have modeled this mathematically. That is kind of the background tech. And as you type something in, it looks at the words and it looks at the sentence, and it basically reads the sentence. And then it kind of predicts what the answer will be based on its trained knowledge. So the system was trained by humans, and it was trained by Wikipedia and reading the web and books. And that's how it developed its knowledge base. But it doesn't know things the way you and I know things. It's just using math to predict what the answer should be based on what it has read, effectively, or what humans have taught it through chatting with it. When you go into artificial general intelligence, that's more like us being aware, being able to make connections without prompting, being able to spark ideas and creativity and all that kind of fun stuff. It's the end goal of artificial intelligence. It's effectively creating something that is a being,
like
for lack of a better term.
The human brain.
With effectively, no, but not just a human brain, the most powerful human brain ever that knows absolutely everything on the planet about everything and can make connections that we've never even thought of. That's the end goal. That's the North Star for AI. The fear is that we're going to get there a little too soon, and any kind of safety measures that are built around it to protect us from it taking over are going to fail. And that's sort of the doom and gloom scenario. But we're nowhere near there right now, so we don't have to worry about that.
Are you so happy right now that you get to talk about this uninterrupted?
It is pretty exciting. I'm not going to lie.
I'm like watching you talk and I'm like, oh my God, this is like every night you want to talk about this with me. I'm like, I'm not interested. I don't want to talk about it. I want to go to bed. Now you have your moment.
There have probably been a few points in human history that have like evolved us from a technological standpoint. We've got like the Industrial Revolution, we have the internet, and now we have this. And it's amazing.
Right. So, I mean, here's what I know of it so far. And I'm curious your thoughts on what more there is that I don't know that would be relevant to my audience, is that I need to find something online. So I open up Chat GPT and I say, hey, can you find me examples of great white paint colors? Can you take this email copy that I copy and paste and write it in a professional tone that's also friendly but firm?
But those are two different things that you just asked. So find me colors. That's more like a Google search. It's searching a database for colors. Write me is a different prompt, right? That's, I want you to write me a response to the email that I just pasted in, for example.
Yeah, I've done that before. I'm like, I got an email from a client. I didn't know how to respond, pasted it into Chat GPT and was like, can you prompt a response that, politely and firmly tells the client that I'm not going to pay, or like something like that. Like I give it a bit of information, but also I've used it for like, can you give me a subject line, or what would a heading be? Or what would a business name be?
Absolutely. If we rewind a little bit, right? So it works on trained data, but the beauty of it is that in that Chat GPT prompt, you can give it training data. You could give it a whole bunch of information about your business and then ask it to act like a persona. So give it a persona. So say you are now the CFO of my company. This is my company. This is what it does. Obviously, the more information, the better. This is a spreadsheet of my financials. Where do you think we could save money, for example? And it will do it. So when you are prompting it, giving it a persona is incredibly important. So let's see, take the persona of an interior designer, and it'll say, okay, I am an interior designer, what would you like to ask me? Take the persona of,
I had someone in our Facebook group say to ChatGPT, she shared it. I thought it was funny. I think I maybe shared it with you. She was like, to ChatGPT, she said, you are Rebecca Hay of Rebecca Hay Designs and Resilient by Design podcast. Your client has asked this. How do you respond? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to take your persona, but keep in mind, the learning, the training for this large language model system stopped in 2021. So it doesn't have any information from September 2021 onwards. So anything that it knows about you stops at that date.
But it can still search the internet, right? So if you're looking for Google searches?
Well, yes and no. So there are some plugins now that allow it to search the internet, but it's not in real time doing that in the background. So any responses that it's giving you is just based off the data that it was trained on. It's not based off any kind of real-time data. So
I can't say like, what are the best restaurants in Chicago?
Okay, so you can, because if you have the paid version, there are plugins, and plugins will interface like OpenTable and whatever, and it could pull you. At that point, it'll go to OpenTable, it'll look for the best restaurant in Chicago, and then it'll ask you if you want to book that table and for how many people, and it'll do it for you.
So it's like your assistant.
Yeah, so with plugins, it does become your assistant. And there's also something called Auto GPT. And that's a little bit different. Auto GPT, that's super nerdy, techie. It runs like a Python script. Anyway, you can basically create an AI agent that will continuously prompt itself. So you can give it a task like research all the interior designers in Canada and tell me if any of them talk about their fees on the website. And it will just go. It'll auto prompt. So it'll like give itself a task list. Okay, well, first I need to find all interior designers in Canada. I need to create a list of all interior designers in Canada. And it's doing this in real time. I've created the list. Now I need to find each one's website, but I need to now search the website. And in the end, it'll give you a Word document of everyone, their URL and everything else that...
It'll give you a Word document?
Yeah.
So wait. How do we designers then get this? We have to pay for this. This is like a subscription model?
You don't. This is like a a Python script that somebody created that runs on I don't even know how to explain this in English.
Oh, so this is not available to the public.
This is not available to the public. No,
Then why are you talking about these dark?
I'm just because that's where it's going. Because
shit.
we started on plugins. We started on plugins, right? So it can search the web now. You can enable browsing, so you can send it to a page. Visit this URL and give me a summary. But you got to remember, everything is one prompt, and it gives you an answer, and then you as a human have to then continue to prompt it. On the auto version, it keeps prompting itself until it gets to its end goal, whatever that end goal was that you set out for it to be. So if you asked it to build you a website that looks like your website, it would literally go and do it.
Are you serious? Because I'm going to hire a web designer. So should I not bother? Should I just get to the Python?
No, listen, it's still so Python is a computer language.
I know.
So
I'm
Python
just
scripts are going to be anyway. The reality is it's not perfect, right? It's not perfect, but I have had it do research on competitors of my clients on the agency side, for example, and it's produced really good reports for me. So that's an example. I have had it build a simple website as well, and it worked. And then I passed that information on to my developer, and then he finished it, in a few days rather than a few weeks. So these are some of the ways that it can be utilized. In my world, in your world, it would be amazing for email copy, difficult responses to emails. You kind of have a gist of what you want to write to a client. So you can just tell it, I'm an interior designer. I need to write a client this email in a professional tone, and then just mash your thoughts down through your keyboard. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about punctuation, and ask it to rewrite this for you. And it'll write this beautiful email in seconds that would have taken you at least 15, 20 minutes through iterations and proofreading. And, should I do this? Should I do that? Like, that takes all that out. So to not use this in your day-to-day life, just from the basic web version, we're not going to get anything crazy technical. Get the paid version because it's better. $20 US a month. I collect no revenue from this, unfortunately. And you can use it in it makes, honestly, I'm 30 to 40% more efficient and effective because of AI than I was prior to using it. And I've just scratched the surface.
So if someone has never tried anything to do with Chat GPT, they're not going to upgrade and pay.
Well, that's okay. You can do the free version, but there's different, just like in life and everything else, there's different versions, right? So the free version uses the 3.5 model. The paid version uses version 4. 3.5 came out, I think, in the summer, or maybe October was released to the public. I don't remember. And then 4 was released to the public in, I think, April. The leap between 3.5 and 4 is what prompted a lot of AI researchers and people in that field to begin to issue warnings that we need to slow down. So that shows you the leap between the two versions. So honestly, for the $20 US that it's going to cost you, try the good version. Don't waste your time. If you don't like it, it's just 1 month. But there is literally no way that you will not be blown away by this or not be able to integrate it into your business. And start with email. Email is the simplest one. And then you could go into marketing. It can write you subject lines, pre-header text, copy. I mean, we use it to write a lot of copy. And then we make slight edits. But again, it's simple. In the time that it would take you to write an email to a copywriter for them to write that copy, you could just write that same instruction into Chat GPT, and it'll give you the output right there. And then you can make a few edits and you're done. There's no back and forth. There's none of that.
So you mentioned before, like Microsoft Word, does it work with other documents like PDFs, Excel?
Yeah, so there are some plugins where it's going to start working with Excel. You can paste data into it in a comma separated values file. So you can take your Excel file, export as a CSV, and paste it in there and have it analyzed. So I had it analyze some Facebook data. It was okay. It made a lot of blunders. It's not there yet. But again, it's not trained on that either. So as AI evolves, you're going to have specific sort of models or sites that you can go to that are trained on different things. And there'll be one that's trained on marketing analytics. And you could just basically you could export all your Facebook data from your Facebook ads that you run, throw it in there, and it'll tell you which ones are the best, when you should run them, and all that automatically. So that brings the next question is, what's it going to do to jobs?
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty obvious.
Well, here's the thing, though. I don't think people should be afraid of it, like, at all. I think at this point, it's like a superpowered tool that you can use to just be better and more efficient at what you do every day, right? Like, don't fear it. And the sooner you start using it, the better, because learning how to prompt it is a bit of a trial and error game. And it does take practice like anything else. And the sooner you can master it, the less likely it'll replace you, basically.
What did you say? Like, what do you think will be the first jobs that will be replaced?
So, I mean, if you work at a keyboard, like, if that's your job, right, where you work in front of a keyboard for the most part.
Oh, so like 80% of the world's population?
you're in trouble as a whole. The first ones would be, knowledge workers, assistants, copywriters, that kind of stuff. I mean, for development, for like coding, it's amazing. You could be an average coder, and there's a lot of coding tools now that have AI built into it that looks at your code, it kind of learns it, and it helps you write more code faster. So you could be like a level 1 programmer, 1 being, the worst, 10 being the best. With AI, you're like a level 8, so it's interesting.
Analyzing data, writing copy. Interesting.
But that's just, we're only talking about Chat GPT, right? That's just the text portion of AI. There's also the image portion of AI. So you can...
Oh, yeah. Can we talk about that tool you were telling me about the other day?
Yeah, Midjourney. So before this Zoom, Midjourney also requires prompting, and the better you can prompt something, the better the output's going to be. But what I did is I trained Chat GPT on Midjourney's prompting so it could write the prompts for me and do a better job. And I had it create some images. And what I asked it to do, and I don't know how accurate these are, so you would have to be the person to tell me. I asked it to do a family room in the aesthetic of Shay McGee. Then I asked it to do a living room in the aesthetic of Sarah Richardson. And then I asked it to do a living room in the aesthetic of Rebecca Hay. It doesn't know you very well, because I know you.
Nobody does.
and it isn't you. But I mean, I can share the screen here.
Yeah, you can share the screen. So if anyone's watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening right now in your earbuds and you want to hop on over, you can zoom to the middle of this episode and see the screen that he's sharing.
Which interior designer do you think this would be?
They're more or less the same vibe.
No,
though.
This is the same. It gave me 4 images of the same interior designer.
This would be Studio McGee.
You are correct. And this is entirely generated by AI.
I mean, I don't think she would use so many blue pillows, but okay.
We could ask it to reduce the amount of blue pillows
and there's no
on the next
on the one
go.
window, but
Look, but hold on a sec. It's not perfect, right? Like, again, please rewind back to 1996 when you were first able to fire up a browser and look at a website. What state was that website in compared to where they are today? Remember, that's where we are with AI, but look how good it is already.
That's crazy, man. Yeah.
So this is which one?
So I'm guessing this is the Sarah Richardson one?
Correct. You are correct.
Some more traditional elements.
Yeah. And this was you, which I don't think is...
Oh, God. No, it doesn't know me at all.
You.
There's no idea who I am.
Not you at all.
I wouldn't do any of those.
Not you at all.
Or this is telling me something. I need to get a more consistent brand aesthetic.
Maybe, right? But the prompt for Midjourney was generated by Chat GPT. So when I asked it to do the shaming, all I said was, hey, generate me a prompt from Midjourney to make a family room in the style of Shay McGee. And then it said, this is what it generated. Interior of a well-lit, spacious family room reflecting the clean and fresh aesthetics of Shay McGee's design style. The room is furnished with comfortable, plush, cream-colored sectional sofa, accented throw pillows in hues of blue and white, so that could have been changed. A rustic wooden coffee table sits at the center. Anyway, it wrote this whole paragraph, this descriptive paragraph.
And it pulled that information based on her pre-2021, though.
Correct.
Yeah, because her style has changed. I was going to say it's different now.
Based on what it was trained on, and that was her pre-2021, and it generated that image through AI. That's not a photograph. That's was a wild. AI generated image.
So it's not even like a 3D rendering. That is like an actual.
No, it's a photo. It's not a 3D rendering. It looks like a photograph. Yeah. And where it's going to get to in the design world, I think, is you'll be able to throw a room in, or actually you'll be able to feed it some dimensions. effectively. This is the space, this is or here's the floor plan. Render out this room for me or whatever. Imagine this room for me. That's the term that's used for Midjourney, imagine, because it's a real photo. And put these elements in, this sofa, this color,
so I could say, like, use this Samuel & Sons fabric
you got it.
For the drapery and a top pinch pleat. I want to do a navy pinstripe sofa. And it just does it for you.
Yeah.
So the client comes into the presentation and they're like, yep, love it.
Yeah, but except it's going to be your worst nightmare because the clients are going to do this ahead of time, right? Because they're going to have access to it and they're going to come in with like, this is what I want.
Here's the one thing I've learned. Just because you can and have access to the tools to do things, not everybody does it. So like, this is where I think for interior designers, especially if you continue to position yourself in the full service design department, your clients are hiring you for more than just that. They're hiring you to oversee, manage everything from start to finish. And AI is not going to be replacing you showing up at the job site.
No, 100% not. So things
and
that
ensuring
AI,
that those draperies are hung at the right and the height, and then the this, and then can that sofa fit through the door?
Not until it's in a robot. And that robot has the mobile dexterity of a human, then it will replace you. But we're a long way away from there.
But what it could replace are design assistants.
Yes.
What it could replace is someone out on their own won't need to hire a junior designer or bring on an intern unless they need them to run around and pick up samples.
No. And effectively also it helps you visualize the space, right? So in these examples, it made the space, but then you could just tweak it. You could go back, well, instead of those blue pillows, let's try, this fabric on the pillows. Like even the state that it's like at right now, it can do that. And so you as an interior designer can now visualize the space really, really well and make sure that your scheme is going to work.
Yeah, no, what a great tool. All right, designers, are you looking for a custom wall unit, a custom vanity, perhaps a custom dining table? Look no further and give Abacus a shout, or even better, visit their factory showroom and tour their wood shop. From a sketch, a photo, Abacus can build your custom furniture and bring your creative design vision to life. Having used Abacus in the past on my projects, yep, they're my go-to. I would highly recommend giving them a look. You can find them at abacusfurniture.com or send Kelly an email at kelly@abacusfurniture.com and be sure to let them know you found them on the Resilient by Design podcast. I'm just thinking out loud here. If I were listening to this podcast right now and I'm someone who's in school, or I'm someone who's just graduated and like interning, or a junior designer, to me, this episode is going to tell you, learn these tools, because you can
100%.
use these tools to have a leg up on your competition. And you can probably freelance to lots of designers, work for one design firm. And with these tools, in addition to what you've learned in school, you will be a frickin' powerhouse.
Yeah. It's messing up the entire world. Like it's to the point where there's some major venture capitalists. They have a podcast I listen to, and they were talking about like, how do we give money to future companies? Because it used to be that we would need a 50-person company to build this product, this tool, whatever, software, right? And we'd have to fund it, and we'd have to cut a, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9 million check to get them going. But now it could really be the founder, one engineer, and AI that can do it. So like, do we just give them $300,000? Because like, they don't need this big team anymore, right? AI can sort of really fill that gap. And if you're seeing it there in the design space, it really does become a personal assistant that can do a lot for you.
It's like the idea of a virtual assistant, which is someone who's just remotely helping you, takes it to the next level. This is virtual, but like truly not even a human being.
But not even that. And the knowledge that they have is just, no one person can have this element of knowledge. I mean, we've done it to look for a recipe, right? It gave us some amazing recipes over the weekend, over that boys' cottage weekend while you were...
Cottage weekend hasn't even happened yet.
No.
Like you used AI to come up with recipes.
Yeah, we used AI to come up with recipes because we had something, and it's like, okay, we can Google recipes, but like we had a lamb shoulder. It told us how to cook it on the cooker that we were using, at what temperature to use, how to season it, and it just gave us everything that we needed within our context without having to search for all these things and do the translation.
I'm sorry. Did you just say on the cooker?
Yeah, the cooker.
Do you live in England? What? I've never heard you use that word before. Isn't that like a British term?
No, in the barbecue world, the cooker is what you are going to be, doing your low and slow on. So that could be an offset. That could be a pellet fed grill.
Clearly, I'm very ignorant in the world and ways of cookery.
In this case, it was a Kamado grill. Anyway.
Okay. This is getting boring. I'm happy you're excited about the cooking world. Can we get back to design?
Absolutely.
And business. Let's talk about business.
Oh, business. This thing can give you so many business ideas.
So great.
Too, yeah.
This has actually been really interesting. I never really thought of it in some of those ways. And seeing the visual really helps. Okay. What about the doomsday? Can we just talk for a hot minute so that I feel like everyone is so concerned about losing jobs, but I feel like there's something else going on that no one's talking about. And maybe there isn't, and maybe it's just my fear of technology speaking, but like there's got to be greater ramifications to society than just job loss.
Yeah, possibly.
What's going to happen to like governments? Can't people then use it to hack into computers and governments and destabilize nations?
Well, it's not even that. I mean, that's already happening with just humans, and this will help, absolutely. Just like it can help someone code, it can help someone hack. On the flip side, it could also help someone fend off a hack on the cybersecurity. So it is bidirectional. So it kind of gives powers to both sides. But I think what's more scary is that if there's enough video and imagery of you out there and voice, which is you, I could literally upload a few hours of your podcast to some AI tools, and then I can write out a script, and it will, in your voice, it'll sound just like you. It'll be you talking. And this was already used.
This was that famous, what was the song? What musician? Was it Drake? No. Who was it?
It was Drake.
It was Drake? Somebody created a whole song?
Yeah.
Do you want to just explain that example here for those who didn't hear about it? Was it Kanye?
It was Drake. Okay. Well, you know what? We have something called the internet.
We have technology. Here we are talking about tech and trying to use our memory. Who does that?
Yeah. It was Drake. Okay. So there were two. That's a little bit different. So, okay. I'll tell you how that worked. A ghostwriter wrote the song. So AI didn't write the song. A human wrote the song, right? Because this Drake fan wrote the song, so he knew what his lyrics would kind of sound like. He had the beat produced. Then he recorded himself rapping the song. He took the audio track and used AI to make it sound like Drake, and then released it. And the thing was like a banger, basically.
And now there's like a lawsuit.
Universal, I believe it's Universal Music, is looking to sue, but they can't because, again.
But he could sue because they're using his likeness or something, no?
Well, his voice. I don't know. Do you own your voice, though? It starts getting complicated. It starts getting really complicated. And, before you said that, we were going to talk about something more nefarious. There was a situation in, I believe it was the US, where a mother picked up a phone and it was her daughter. And her daughter said, "Oh, Mom, I really made a terrible mistake. This is what's happening." And it was a ransom for the daughter. Except the daughter was never kidnapped. That was just all AI that did that.
Wrong. So
right?
Wrong.
It's very wrong. So, I mean, but then, now we need to, like, as a safety message, because now we're going on the sort of more nefarious side, you, your spouse, your children, whoever in your family, you need to have some sort of a code, right? So that if if that person's calling, you can text them and be like, what's the password or what's the passcode or something. So it's almost like that 2FA, right? Like the two-factor authentication. So you can really validate that it's that person and not someone using their voice to pretend call you to try and get something done. And that's going to go on to likeness too, because it's going to be the same thing with a video. Just like you saw that image generated, it's only a matter of time before we have moving film, right? So people will there's already those deep fakes, right? Where it looks like it's Elon Musk talking, but it's really not him and it's all AI generated. Yeah. So that's just going to get more and more and more intense.
Oh my God. See, that's the shit that scares me is look at what's happening in the US. You look at what's happening politically around the world. People are already meddling. Nobody knows what's true. Whose truth is right? Whose truth is truth? What is truth anymore? And then you throw in all these AI generated people and voices, and you can confuse a population to the point of complete anarchy and a complete breakdown of society. and I know my podcast is not here to talk about this. I did study political science and English, by the way, in university. That was my major, was poli-sci. So I'm very fascinated in this. And that to me is what's really scary, more than the job loss. Because I think humans are resilient and we'll find ways to continue to make money and get creative. It's society at large that I worry about, because I feel like we're so susceptible.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is that you are no longer going to be able to trust your eyes. You know, it's like, remember the, if I don't see it, I don't believe it. Well, now, even if you do see it, you might not be able to believe it. That's kind of the big change, but we'll adapt. We'll adapt accordingly. I think as of right now, think of this as a plus, not a minus. And if it really ever gets out of hand, then, I mean, there's not a lot we can do about it.
Do you think that this is where government needs to step in and there needs to be regulation? Or is that just going to complicate things even more?
What are you going to regulate, though?
I don't know. This isn't my world.
Like, no, sure, you can regulate, but like the bad actor in a different country that doesn't, you know, just to be clear, these large language models are already open sourced. You can already, there's many of them. You can install them on your own computing system. You can train them yourself. Like Pandora's box is open. So even if we do regulate, who's to say that there isn't a nefarious actor overseas that isn't completely going to ignore the regulation and do as they please? So I don't know that you're going to be able to regulate. And this is the warning effectively from all these top people like Elon and a couple of the AI researchers that we're moving too fast. Their greater concern is that it'll become self-aware and basically, you know, try to take over humanity.
Right. So basically, entire destruction of the planet, you know, no big deal.
Yeah, I mean,
or humans anyway.
Maybe I don't know. Who knows? But we're still a good, like, at least, you know, we're a while away from there. So I'm
interested to see who comes out with the first movie about this.
There's been a lot of movies about this actually already, but anyway, that's not the point. We're here to talk about how this can help interior design. We just went down this like rabbit hole. Of
I'm really good at rabbit holes. You don't listen to my podcast, so you wouldn't know this.
I actually, truth be told, I don't listen to your podcast.
That would be embarrassed to admit that. I don't think you should admit that.
So anyway, back to business.
Let's look at this with a positive lens and how designers can use this to their advantage. We already talked about a few ways. One of them would be learning that Midjourney with the photos and using it and playing around to see how it can help you. What else? How else can we use this to our advantage to help us better our business practice, our process, our marketing, our client relations?
It can do a lot for you. Like you can ask it like the most generic question. How could I market my interior design business in Ontario? And this is my unique selling position. Do you know what I mean? And it'll start giving you information on how to do that. You can use it to generate blog content for SEO. It's like, you know, you want to write something about colors and color science and how hues should work together. So you give it the persona of a copywriter. You tell it what you want to write a blog post on. Then, pro tip, you have it ask you 5 or 10 questions that you answer, and then it'll generate you this amazing original blog content because it asks you those questions rather than using...
Okay, whoa. Hold your horses. It asks me questions? So can you give me an example? Like an interview, like if I was being interviewed for a publication type of thing?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So give me a blog topic.
The design trends to watch in 2023.
We're gonna go 2021 just because that's where learning got cut off, but okay.
Love it. So this is reminding us of the limitation. So maybe that's a really bad example because the design trends in 2021 are not going to be relevant today. Although maybe they will be. Let's find out.
Ask me 5 questions to make the article better. All right. So let's see what it does. All right. Oh, it's not asking any questions. And this one is just going for it. So it's writing a blog post. Top interior design trends of 2021, a blend of comfort, functionality, and aesthetics. And it goes through everything. Multifunctional spaces, emphasis on comfort. Comfort became key. It's literally writing.
Okay, let's find
post.
something else that would be questions.
How about a bio?
Okay.
Write a bio about me. Ask me 5 questions that you need to write the bio.
Okay, that's good. I really like this blog idea, though. I want to come back to that. So we can help people come up with that.
Write a bio for my design business website. Ask me 5 to help you write it. All right, so certainly It'll be glad to help. All right.
Sure
so these are the questions that it's asked. Okay. And again, this is like super rudimentary, right? Like if you start getting creative, you can go really, really deep. This is what it wants from me. Okay. The name of my business and when was it established? What are my areas of specialization in interior design, residential, commercial, sustainable, etc.? What is your design philosophy or approach when working with clients? Can you provide a brief background about the founder, team, education, experience, awards, etc.? What sets your business apart from other interior design firms? What are your unique selling points? And then basically you'd be like 1, da-da-da, 2, da-da, and then boom, there's your bio written. Imagine doing that yourself. Or imagine even working with a copywriter to do that yourself.
Very cool. I never thought of asking it to ask me questions that were relevant to write the copy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Like you could even say, ask me what my top 5 picks were at High Point Market and write a blog post about right?
Yes.
And so then it could ask me or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. You got to think about it and get creative. So it takes some time. It takes a bit of time. It's not just like instant.
No, it takes a bit of time, but the sooner you get on this and the sooner, right, you're writing these prompts, the better you're going to get at it.
Practice makes perfect. Okay.
And then you can have it change the tone. Like it'll write the blog and be like, you know what? Less formal, more witty, throw a few puns in there, make it comical, whatever. And it'll make those edits because it understands what that means.
Right. And that was something cool that I learned just from using it a little bit is that you can go back and say, you can ask to change the tone of voice. You can ask them to throw in examples. Like it writes it the first time. And then what I think is cool is it saves it all. So you have your login. So I can go back and I can pull that response from before and I can...
You could go back into that chat effectively, because it's saved and say, hey, this is a similar situation, different client. These are the client's names. This is what's different. Write the email. You have to give it any more prompting. It already has that background knowledge about that first email response that it gave you.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I feel like this is a giant plug for OpenAI. There are other tools that do this too.
I mean, most people just know about OpenAI, but... Yeah. Well, that's like anything, right? When you're first to market, everybody knows about you and then other competitors come into the space and then it becomes a bit of a different world. All right. Anything else that we haven't touched on that you think would be relevant to help interior designers use AI to their advantage so that they can stay ahead of the curve? Yeah.
So we've really only talked about like the business itself, right? And we've touched a little bit about marketing, writing some blog posts, writing some copy for your website, fixing the copy on your website. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are starting out and, they wrote their own copy. They can literally just cut and paste that in and say, rewrite this copy, ask me any questions that you think are pertinent to rewriting this copy, and it'll do that. And they can fix the copy on their website in 15, 20 minutes, an hour, right? So that's like step 1. We talked about how we can use it for email responses to clients. We talked about, maybe for ads, blog posts for SEO, that kind of stuff. Great. It can also, like once you teach it, talk to it about your business. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to type. You can just like audio, like if you, Siri or whatever, you can use that to communicate to it as well. So that saves you the typing. Quite often I just do that. It can give you business advice. This is my banking situation. This is how much I have. This is, how much I'm spending monthly. What's my cash flow look like for the next 3 months? You can start asking it business questions. It will answer them for you. It has that knowledge. It has an MBA.
Right. But I mean, you still want to listen to Resilient by Design podcast because that's going to be really specific and hopefully entertaining.
And I'll tell you why. At the bottom of the Chat GPT area, like that you prompt it, and I'm going to read it verbatim. It says it may produce inaccurate information about people, places, or facts. So sometimes these AI systems hallucinate and they just start making stuff up. Because again, remember, it's predictive text, right? So when it's writing an answer, like certainly I'd be glad to help, right? And then it's like mathematically scoring what that next word should be. Okay, well, it should be you. And it goes through a series of words. Create should be the next word. Compelling, because you talked about a blog post, so compelling would make sense. So it's always mathematically trying to score the next word to put in there. It's not like you and I. It's just using predictive text to give you these answers based on what it has been taught. So it's not always going to be accurate, which is why you should continue listening to this podcast.
which is also not always accurate.
Which is also not always accurate. In fact,
everybody's
half
opinion.
of what I said might be incorrect, but that's not the point.
All opinions, but isn't that what life is?
Yeah.
Okay, this has been really interesting. I hope people listening found some new bits of information in there. I hear you talk about it all the time. So I'm like, okay, yep, heard this before. But I realize not everybody is married to a tech nerd who listens to podcasts about all this jazz. At the end of every episode, because we do need to wrap up this episode because you and I have to go to our son's drama play.
Oh, I was just getting warmed up. I thought this was going to be like one of those like...
I know. Well, you were late.
Like
so
Lex
that's
Friedman podcasts, you know, where they're like sometimes 6-7 hours of chatting on a topic. God. Yeah.
Well, that you could do that for your podcast. Good for you. But what I would say is we can have you back, honey. You can come back.
Sure.
Let's wait and see how this episode does, though. We're going to track the analytics. Let's see if it gets, we always track to see which episodes are in our top 10 most downloaded in the first 7 days. We track the first 7 days of downloads. So if you make the top 10, we'll have you back.
Okay. So I have 3 questions for you. Number 1, when do you plan to release this episode approximately? Like how many weeks do I have?
You'll have a few weeks.
Okay. 2, can I make some, I do need to edit some parts because when I was showing you the OpenAI, the image generation, there was some sensitive data on the screen. So I'm gonna have to make sure that gets blurred out. 3, can I do the marketing for this particular episode myself? Like, can I just pick the best parts, create an ad and run it? You
can put your own money behind it if you want to do paid ads, run those ads. And then guess what? If it works, you can do that for other episodes that I have and you can help me market my business, something that you've never really done.
I know you say that and I don't actively do it. Like I don't actively sit there and do it, but I feel like you ask me questions from time to time and I answer them and I think that helps.
But don't most husbands? Even husbands who are like lawyers, I'm sure they give their feedback. I know, I give you a hard time. Okay, well, please do promote this episode. Let's see if we get the right audience.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of enjoy this, and now I'm kind of enjoying being back on camera. Remember, I was doing those marketing videos before. So I think I'm going to, like when you release this in the show notes, you can put my Instagram and stuff. I'm going to refire that up. Yeah, I'm going to fire up my social media. Instagram. Oh, I'm going to start. I'm going to have AI generate a lot of the content for me. Yeah.
You heard it here first. Kris Karski on Instagram. Okay, Kris, we got to go to the school. So I did not prepare you for this. At the end of every episode, I ask each guest to share one last nugget of wisdom for our audience. It could be something that we already mentioned that you just want to hammer home, or it could be something we didn't even touch on. What is your last nugget of wisdom for the design firm owners listening today?
It really is. And it's going to be what we talked about the whole time. Embrace AI. Like, honestly, don't wait. Like, you finish listening to this podcast episode, go to chat.openai.com. Pay that $20, load up Chat GPT 4. As of the airing of this episode, it could be 5, could be 6 by the time somebody listens, depending on sort of where we go. But start using it. Start using it now. It will change your life from the moment that you start using it. It'll make you more productive. And the more productive you are, the sooner you can get to your goals. And the sooner you get to your goals, hey, the better for you.
Yeah, love it. All right. Thank you. And guys, if you're listening, hop on over to the Designer Meetups Facebook group and let me know, have you been using Chat GPT? Have you used any AI tools? How's it working for you? What do you love? Let's start a conversation inside that Facebook group. That's what that group is for. And if you liked having Kris on the podcast, let me know. Maybe we'll invite him back. We'll see.
I'll even jump into that Facebook group and answer some of those AI questions.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what we could do? We could set up a Facebook Live for when this episode airs, and we'll do that. So if you guys are listening and you're not sure whether or not it happened, hopefully we'll have put it into the show notes. If you're not a member of the Designer Meetup Facebook group, I don't know what you're doing. You should get over there.
Definitely get over there.
All right. Thanks so much. It's been a slice.
Thank you.
Okay. So what did you guys think? Having Kris on the podcast was pretty funny for me. It's weird interviewing someone who you know so well and whose information you've heard like a million times over. But I hope it was really helpful for you. If there's anything in that episode that you thought would be interesting to do a deeper dive in, let me know. We're definitely going to have Kris join us inside Designer Meetups to do a live. So when this episode airs, please check the show notes, check my Instagram, check the Designer Meetup Facebook group. We're going to make it happen. He can answer all your questions and more, and it might even take you down a rabbit hole in the world of coding and dark web stuff, but who knows where it'll take us. I hope that this at least inspired you to just dive right in and try, because there's a lot that AI can do for you. Okay, guys, that's it. I'll see you soon. The Resilient by Design podcast is produced by Vera Marquez, edited by Abby Circatella, and hosted by yours truly, Rebecca Hay.